Folks, you are live with I-12 GIA, the voice of experience, real talk with real people. We're running a little bit behind tonight because we had some technical difficulties that took a while to get sorted out. Nomad has parachuted in from the North Pole, where he's been spending the last several months, and we have him back tonight, as you can see. He managed to
ouch.
he managed to injure himself in the process, and he escaped from the hospital today and is back home where he belongs, which is good because we were going to come rescue him.
I believe those of us in the medical field call that AMA, but
Oh, and it's off to a good start already. Okay, so here we are. We are live. We're live on YouTube. So this is an R pending X rated program. If you have delicate sensibilities or you're easily offended, go somewhere else because you don't belong here. So that's designated as such as mature audiences only on YouTube. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Peace of Mind Training, I-12 GIA, and we have some new ones too, but we'll get to them later. Topics for tonight: we're going to do Professor von Helsing is going to start us off on. Do you have a? Yeah, never mind. He's going to start us off with the Hamas murdering Christians. Always a pleasant topic. Then we're going to do China is not our friend, believe it or not. In spite of what the Democrats tell you, Russia is not our main enemy. Then we're going to go to Hamas terrorists go to university and their stuff. We're going to have a short training video. It's supposed to be 10 seconds. It actually turned out to be 46 seconds. I didn't feel like editing it out, but we'll get to that at the very end. It's about it goes over shooting from a seated position. And then we'll finish it up with the X lightning round, and we'll be done for the night. So let's fire this off, fellas. So you have myself, Instructor Fogg. You have the specialist up in the upper right corner, Professor von Helsing, who changes his name every week to protect the innocent, is down in the lower left, and our close friend, the Nomad, is down in the lower right. So let's rock and roll, fellas. Start us off there, Professor.
All right. Syria. Syria. It's very hard being a Christian when I have a lot of Christian channels that I follow, and I have I know a lot of Christians nationwide, met some worldwide, and it seems that anytime 70 Christians get beheaded, the world doesn't want to talk about it, or there is an outright attack by Islamic extremists on Christians. We don't like to talk about that, at least here in the United States. And for years, it was, and I'm not saying Bashir al-Assad is a good guy. I'm not saying that, but I am saying he did protect a lot of the Christians over there. And right after Trump was elected, there was the lightning blitzkrieg of rebels attacking the Assad regime, and they moved it. It seemed like overnight they had overrun the country. And I remember in late November, early December, our A-10s flying at 200 feet over, showing their presence. And Tulsi Gabbard even said before it started, be careful who you're friends with, because these rebels are going to start cleansing out the Christians, right? They're going to start cleaning them out, and it's not going to be pleasant. And what do you know? Just within the last week, 3,000 were executed. Where's the world, right? Where's where are our allies saying that that's bad? And not that I have things against Trump, but I would very much like to have him come out and condemn this. It seems that if it's any other group, elected officials have no problem taking a stance, right? I mean, we can't kick out a Hamas terrorist out of our country without the Democrats, throwing themselves on the floor and crying. But what about the mass murder of the Christians over there? And it's not just something as putting them up against the wall and shooting them. They are torturing our brothers and sisters in Christ over there at a record rate, and I'm not hearing anything of it. I'd even would like to hear something from the Vatican. Can we go ahead and finally make a call to protect our brothers and sisters over there? This to me is disgusting, and I don't want to put American troops in harm's way, But if we're going to fly some low pass A-10s to protect these mass murdering assholes, why don't we do a few more low passes and maybe, hit the gow a little bit and protect our brothers and sisters over there. Shout out to the Christians over there that in the face of annihilation are still carrying crosses down main streets in Syria. May God bless you. My thoughts and prayers are with you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nomad, would you care to weigh in with that?
Yeah, I was in Aleppo in 2014, part of an FST, which is a fuck shit technician, and we were not meant to be there officially, but we ended up there anyway, being sent from somewhere else into Aleppo, and the ISIL, which was Islamic State in Libya, which then became ISIS, Islamic State in Syria, it morphed into that. There's a whole conglomeration of people in that area. There's the Yazidis, which are the Christians down there. There's the Peshmerga. There's the Kurds, and you have old biblical stuff going back to biblical Old Testament times, where Aramaic is still spoken in some parts, in small communities in there, not in parts. Aramaic is primarily spoken right now, but even not in Ethiopia. But anyway, neither here nor there. So when that shit was going on, it was going on at that stage a couple of years, and I think it's going on since about 2010. And basically, what was happening was on the ground, the liberation fronts that were up against Assad were a complete rainbow, a coalition of it. So Tulsi Gabbard was correct, because those people turn on you quite quickly. The common denominator is that they were primarily Islamic, and Islamic, I don't care. Is not compatible with Christianity. There's no way. It's not compatible either with any of the Judaism. So it is not compatible with any other religion. Second thing being is that once they gained ground, the Peshmerga, which was made up of a bunch of freedom fighters, and the Kurds from northern Iraq, they've had a gripe with the Turks for a very long time. Historically, Turkey and Syria are very, very well connected, both trade, culturally, and religiously as well. So you're going back to something that's older than the conflict itself. So we don't understand that because we don't live that. Going back to what you said, it is time for another crusade. It definitely is, because it's reached where we're past the point of rescue. No other religion would put up with this. And the fact that Christians don't make good news coverage because you don't want to upset the balance of power in the region by focusing upon a small group. So if you focus upon a small group, that was it. If you did the same thing to Israelis or Jews, you see the Israeli Air Force in the air knocking the shit out of these people. Okay, so and rightly so, and rightly so. So now what you've got is you've got the seeds of discontent now, and the coalition that was once formally trained and supplied by us is now turning upon those people. We had come across things where the torture was one end of it. The second part is the sexual slavery that went on with it, and then you had the total annihilation of anything that was there. Everybody fighting against Assad still wanted these people gone. And so there's a combined interest amongst friend and foe to wipe these people out. You have to protect them. There's no other way. It's not a humanitarian crisis. It's that and a lot more. But it represents failure. Nobody really cares unless it hurts them in the pocket. So I don't see it changing at all. But interesting point about the Vatican. You said that right, Professor. The Vatican should at least be opening its mouth and doing something. Right now, we're more concerned with pronouns rather than protection.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And thanks. I'm glad you found us there. We got kind of lost for a few minutes of technical difficulties. And 10 Nightshade 13, not sure who you are, but thanks for joining us. Hopefully, you'll
that
stick
is my
around with us
beautiful
this
wife.
evening.
And we've got a couple sick kids at home, and a wife barely on any sleep, and she's holding everything down. So I love you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Good job.
Excellent. Perfect. Okay, specialist, would you care to weigh in on this subject?
3 points. First being, this ain't going to go over good with a lot of people, but I'm going to say what's on my mind. Bashar al-Assad, Saddam Hussein, and Muammar Gaddafi were all in there. They were all evil people. But in a lot of ways, they were heroes because they held the bad guys at bay.
Mm-hmm.
After George Bush murdered Saddam Hussein, Iran just was given a free pass. Okay. After they ran Bashar al-Assad out of Syria, they take to murdering Christians. After they murdered Gaddafi and shot him in the streets, we all saw the videos on that. What happened? Well, the U.S. embassy over there got overrun. 4 of our guys got killed with an ambassador, and Libya's just out of control. So,
Okay.
to a certain extent, yeah, they were evil people, but to a certain extent, they were good guys. That's my number one point. My second point is with the whole thing. Yeah, it's a dire situation, particularly during the Civil War conflict that began in 2011, somewhere around there. Various Christian communities that face persecution, violence, and displacement from their homes due to the ongoing war. Reports document that instances of Christians being targeted for kidnapping and murder. True, all true. Professor's right. Or forced conversion. That's number 2. So that is ongoing. My third point and my final point is maybe instead of like carrying their crosses, maybe they ought to be looking for M4s or AR-15s to defend themselves with, because that is the only way out of this. The only thing that these animals know, and nobody can back me up on it, and Chet, you can back me up on it, because you were there. The only thing that these animals know is you got to meet them head on. You got to meet them head on with violence. You got to meet them head on with death. That's the only thing that they understand. Sorry, but that's life in the real world.
Yeah, you are correct. And just to follow up a little bit on what you just said there, specialist, it's better the devil that you know. And Democrats and rhinos in general are they're the queens and kings of unintended consequences.
Yep.
And with all this shit, go ahead.
There's something else as well. There's a couple of other factors you should consider in. A lot of fighters that came from Afghanistan that previously had fought U.S. and coalition forces in Afghanistan are now in Syria. So Syria was a good training ground. So when the Taliban got, thanks to Joe Biden, when he gave them a country, they had already combat experience. So they were already familiar with the enemy's weapons, because the enemy's weapons are us. So stuff that they encountered on the battlefield in Syria, the training was done in Syria with those weapons. So when they took over our stuff, when Biden pulled out during Abbeygate, that it was they're familiar with it. Number 2, can you imagine the geographical positioning that this is taking now? Right now, Israel is surrounded. Now it's surrounded again, and so you've got Syria is not a small country, so Syria is very important strategically. So if somebody's going to broker a peace, just watch what the Russians do. The Russians will make some headway, and at some stage they will basically broker a peace, because where is Assad? He's in Moscow. Okay, that means that Russia will end up getting back its naval ports in Syria, and it will have access to the sea, which is a direct threat. And Iran and Russia do business with hardware, so we're back to square one yet again. So it to me, it's impossible to avoid a conflict here. You're going to have to call a spade a spade. Last thing, as regards to the specialist points about weapons, the communities that are there, they're primarily shepherds and nomads. They're not trained fighters in any way at all. So they have no base training. So giving them stuff, it would be like buy me a blow dryer, a wonderful idea, but completely useless. So what would happen is you'd have to have boots on the ground here to do something. But specialist is right. We'll have to put something in there, but you have to train these people to a level where they're operating. And you're talking about a conflict that's going on 15, 16 years. And it's invisible to the media, invisible to the world, and you have a lot of devastation there. And then the last thing is, Syria's geology is very important. Syria is full of shiny green rocks and some of those hydrocarbons and some of those precious metals that we're trying to make a deal with Ukraine on. So Ukraine and Syria are not too far from each other. And so you're going to have to see a posturing on 3 ways. 1, the Arab states that support a peace deal, that they have to put the money where their mouth is. Number 2, Trump is going to have to call the ball and literally stomp this thing out quickly. And last thing is, European Union has to get off its ass and do something, because the majority of the refugees coming to Europe right now are Syrian.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
there's everybody's correct in what you said tonight. It's a great subject matter, and I'm glad you brought it up, Professor, because it's forgotten about. It's forgotten about. It's a tragedy.
Now, Professor, back to your. Now, I'm going to. Okay,
And two
go ahead.
things. Two things with that. I do want to point out, and I know this will drive Democrats nuts, but we could, and again, I'm not saying that Vladimir Putin is a good man, but I will say this: he's a leader right now that's defending Christians. That even though he's fighting a war that we're helping his enemy on, he's still sending forces to help those Christians there and offered them protection. Now, Nomad, you bring up something really good. If this was done to Israel, and it has been done to Israel, the IDF gets their air force up and they instantly go and annihilate that threat. You just made me think of something great. I would very much love to see the Templar cross on some A-10s and some F-16s, and to go ahead and defend our people. I think that would be the way to go. So,
Okay, this is you're right. This is
hopefully something we see in the
exactly this is a good time to interject this. The opinions that we have on the show are our own. They in no way reflect the values or the beliefs of our sponsors. They are strictly our own. None of us are fomenting violence in any way. This is just a discussion that we're having about some pretty hot topics, and some that tend to get people riled up. Now, in this particular subject, it's not the first time this has been a crusade. This is not the first time that Islam and Christianity has butted heads, and it's going to happen again. And I think that's going to be our next major conflict. I think we've had this discussion before about there's something biblical on the horizon.
Yeah.
I think, and you can see it, you can feel it in the air, you can taste it. And I think this is where it's going to happen.
Can I bring up one point? Sergeant Uber from the 3rd Ranger Battalion gave me a lot of good talking points tonight, so I can't take credit for all I'm going to say.
Okay.
I got to give Jerry credit for a lot of it. But
Good job.
he brought out a good point tonight in Syria. There's a new caliphate that's on the rise, and that's Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
Al-Qaeda is reconstituting itself in Syria.
Yeah, they're back.
They're back. You're right, Nomad. They're back, and so we all know how Al-Qaeda behaves. They unfortunately they take no prisoners, and so that's what we're facing. And to Instructor Fogg's point, that's going to be the new battleground. This is going to be the new fight. So
buckle up, buttercups.
buckle up, buttercups.
There you have it.
Sam Adams joined the chat. Hey, good to see you, brother. Yes, that's what we were covering, is that the Christians are the ones that suffer, and especially what's going on. So we just hit that.
Let's this is a good segue into another topic. We're kind of going out of order here, but that's okay, because we can do that, because we're running this show, and if you don't like it, fuck you and the horse you rode in on. Moving right along. Hamas goes to university. Okay, what? I mean, what in the world are these idiots thinking? In the bastions of higher learning, why are they letting these creatures of darkness and these spawns of evil into the halls of the Ivy League? Not only that, but they're paying for him, they're supporting him, and they're giving him tea and canapes and hors d'oeuvres, and what the fuck is going on? Nomad, you go ahead. First time up, brother.
Oh God.
I know.
It's down to a number of things. The people who run these colleges are completely they're removed from reality. They live in a bubble. They've been students all their life. They became professors and they stayed in school. All of these Ivy League colleges are all still thinking that it's the mid '60s and it's the heyday of revolution and peace, love, and all that stuff, right? So they already have that mindset. So therefore, they don't see any real harm in what's going on, because they feel it's like them reliving history again. They're seeing protests again. They're singing with guitars. The Democrats came out with playing some crap during a peace rally or some stuff. So they don't see the harm in them, because also here's the thing: it doesn't affect them, because only thing affects them is what Trump is after fixing, which is their pocket. So now, when you can't give them cannabis because you got no damn money, when you got to account for every penny that you've gotten, free speech is one very one thing. I was a green card holder at one stage, and I knew I couldn't have anything out of the ordinary. I couldn't have a DUI. I couldn't have a parking ticket. And there's a term that USCIS and CBP use, and it's a crime. It's a crime of moral turpitude is the exact words used in the
Exactly.
actual in the documentation. And so you could be that was so wide ranging. You could use that for anything. So if I had posted something, say on a Facebook or something 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when I wasn't a citizen, I could be denied my green card for renewal and be deported. So it's easy for these guys to allow it because the system. I think this was. I have a conspiracy theory with this shit. Okay, and
Okay.
here we go.
Okay, good.
I think everything that Biden did is linked together, like parts of a spider web. The border, the lack of control, the open universities, where we're paying for their healthcare, we're paying for their education. So we basically got it's actually like the old Trojan horse. You got the enemy inside the gates right now. Difficult to get the enemy out because you don't know where the enemy's gone. So I think it's part of a longer term plan where the politicians took the money and took the glory and took the glamour and bought votes with it, but they didn't see the real harm in taking it. So, like Judas had with 30 pieces of silver for Jesus, they took the money, but the consequence of taking that money never was impacted upon them. Now they see it, and the people who gave those permissions are at the end of their political career and almost at the end of life. So it doesn't affect them in any way at all. So the Democrats themselves had been used by proxy, but their arrogance to who they are and how important they think they got their ass kicked in the election. They're not relevant at all. So the total chaos has been, it is Machiavellian. It has been orchestrated to allow all of these things to happen at the same time. And now the result is it's difficult. Now, when you have somebody saying, because they're an illegal immigrant, you can't even call them illegal immigrants anymore. They're undocumented. No, they're not undocumented. They're fucking illegal.
Exactly.
Right? So bottom line is this to me is part of a greater plan. Who's behind it? I don't know. Soros comes up to mind, China comes to mind. But I tell you this is an operation long term and long term in the planning, and now the genie's out the bottle, and this is where we're at.
Specialist, you want to weigh in? Sorry.
Absolutely. So,
You swallow first. Sorry.
as a Jew, I'm personally offended by this whole conversation.
Absolutely.
This shouldn't be happening. If you're wearing a yarmulke or you have a talent on, you can't go to class. Okay, that's number one. That shouldn't be happening. Number two, I saw last week Tehran come out and admitted that they were funding all these protests that were going on against Jewish students on American campuses. Okay, so Iran and the Ayatollahs behind the whole thing. They're financing everything. They're financing everything. So that's a problem right there.
And where do they get all their money from?
So though I believe I might be slightly retarded, but I believe that Obama and Biden, under the cover of darkness, flew two planes with several $100 billion in frozen Iranian assets. I could be wrong. Maybe I am.
No, you're
audience. I apologize.
You're not, because I tracked one of those planes going in. So anyway, moving right along, and it's not just Jews and other folks of other religions that are offended by this. As a Christian, I'm highly offended also by this entire issue, and as an American, I'm offended. You know what? We the premise of our Constitution is peaceful protest. If you don't like something, you tell the government that in a peaceful manner. It's peace. You can do peaceful protests until you're blue in the face and fall over and die. These are not peaceful protests, and quit fucking acting like they are. They're go ahead.
Peaceful protests are only a Democrat a liberal talking point. What the Constitution actually says is you have the right to redress your grievances with the government. It doesn't specify peaceful protest.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Redress could mean sit down and write a letter to your congressman saying, hey, I don't like what you're doing.
Yeah.
Let's pick another path forward, And as long as we're talking peaceful protest, my idea of a peaceful protest, if you want to gather in a group,
Mhm.
you walk down the sidewalk, you keep walking, you keep moving.
Mhm.
It doesn't give you the right to congregate in the street, block a highway, stop an ambulance from getting to the hospital, stop a fire truck from getting to
Exactly.
a fire, stop a police car from getting to a crime scene. Okay? That's total BS if you're going to go down that road.
Mhm.
Okay?
Mhm. Agreed. Those are all crimes.
Constitution says you can redress your grievances with the government. There are ways to do that.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you have the right to assemble in a crowd of 10,000 people, because that's not a peaceable assembly. I don't care what definition you use, what dictionary you pick it out of.
Mhm. Okay. Professor.
Well, I remember when there used to be protests for civil rights, when civil rights did have an issue, right?
Mhm.
There were, protests for, anti-war, right? We shouldn't have been sending our young boys off to die in Vietnam, and then the ones that survived spit on them when they came home, right?
Mhm.
That's not a way you treat somebody that went to defend your nation, okay?
Mhm.
So yes, protest for good things. I'll tell you, I saw something this week where a young girl said she was running for student body as a representative of the student socialists and communists of America, right? Fighting capitalism to make things equal for every working man. And it's funny that everybody that loves communism grew up here and not actually in a communist state,
Yeah.
right? First off, young lady, I doubt you would be speaking in a communist state. Let's go with that. So to me, I mean, these college students, Nomad, he hit the nail on the head, right?
Mhm.
They've been students their whole life. They've
Mhm.
never actually had to do anything. Maybe they made a macchiato at Starbucks and that stressed them out.
Mhm.
That's about it. They haven't faced any real world problems, and they have these things made up. It's like it's like celebrities. When you see a celebrity spend, $90,000 on a bed. Well, why? Why would you spend someone's salary on a bed? Well, they've got nothing else to do. There's nothing else out there, nothing else to spend their money on. So they're going to do some crazy shit. This is the same thing with these students. They're not based in reality. They're doped up on every medication you can possibly think of.
Mhm.
And they're being told, you're special just the way you are. You go ahead and make the world the way you want, right? And they're
Well,
going
it's
to
not
carry
just.
their delusions into public. Hence why, like the specialist said, we'll block intersections. We'll call elderly people, we'll scream at elderly people in the cars, call them racist, and then punch them repeatedly until they're unconscious, right? That's what these people do. Get them
Yeah, and
out. See
it's
you
not
later.
just
If
it's
you're
not
if
just
you're not from the country,
yeah, it's not just the
yeah, if
students,
you're
the
not from the
professors.
country, you're here on a green card, get out, right?
Yeah.
Trump already said it was going to happen. If
Yeah.
you're here on a visa and you start some shit, you're getting deported. I can't think of one country I can go to right now, start a protest, and think they're not, well, they're going to jail me. Deported would be the nice thing to do. We're the only ones that put up with this, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I might push back on that a little bit, based on the Islamization of Europe. Germany's having some major problems. They're finally getting their shit together, but it's all, as you so succinctly put earlier, Nomad. It's all combined. It's spider webs. It's webs going out worldwide, and it's all based on open borders and immigration. All these countries are being flooded by by folks from other nations, and it seems like the Islamic religion is what does most of this, or Muslimism. So they're going into Germany, Spain, France, Europe, Ireland, for God's sake, and they've been welcomed with open arms, and I just don't understand why. And they wonder why there's, I don't know, 650 mosques coming up in Belfast. That's just an exaggeration and it's hyperbole, but so don't fact check it, folks. But you get the point. So, but why? I mean, what are these people? What are these leaders? These alleged representatives thinking?
Well,
Specialists.
Did you
there's
did you
one
see
of the,
the Grecian ambassador to the UN? Did you see her go back and forth with the ambassador from Germany? It was
No,
fantastic. What
no.
she was saying was Fog, what you just hit on as far as the Islamist extremists in the gatherings, what she said was, Europe made this happen and flooded all of their countries with Muslims. And what she said was they should be rounded up, put onto an island, and then sorted out and deported back to the countries that they need to go on. Well, the German ambassador got up and said, as somebody from Germany, shouldn't we get away from putting people in camps? He was trying to call her out, and she leveled him, and by saying, like, well, first off, you caused this problem, and not to mention what you did to people in camps was far worse. All we're talking about is getting them sorted out and sent back to the countries that they belong in. Period. So that's what we need to do. Start deportation. It's not a racist thing. We need to think of our country first.
Right, Specialist. I think you wanted to jump in there.
I did. You mentioned Europe, Germany. Let's talk Eurasia totally. Okay. I'm going to sum it up. Again, credit got to go to 3rd Ranger Battalion Sergeant Uber for pointing me in the right direction. I ate at a Mexican restaurant last night. I took a nice soft shit today. And I wouldn't take that soft shit out of the toilet for Germany or Britain or any of those countries over there. Because Sergeant Hubert said to me the reason that Zelensky had his little meltdown at the White House the other day was because he had already signed a secret agreement with Great Britain. Now, did we lose Nomad?
No, he's right there.
Oh, now, the only place that I could find that agreement that Zelensky signed was on Al Jazeera.
For fuck's sake.
And it said it right there. Great Britain, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, the reason Great Britain decided to pledge to send troops to help Ukraine was they signed the agreement for those precious minerals that Trump so desperately wants.
Oh my God. Nomad, you are waving your arms and stuff there. What's going on?
Well, I think it's a clever way of changing the cultural aspect of Europe. It's the equivalent of getting a dandelion and blowing the seeds in the wind in a way they carry, and you set them all over Europe, and they settle down, and so you have a community. Next thing you know, they're getting voted into local government. Next thing you're getting using Sharia law in their town councils. Next thing you know it, they're up into the House of Representatives. Next thing you know, they're going for a governor. All of a sudden, your whole state is basically Islamic based, without a single shot being fired, right? Second thing is that it is coordinated. There's no doubt about it. If you can overwhelm a country, if you can overrun the walls of a castle, and the people coming over those walls, they take over your hospitals, they take over your food, they take over everything else, they take over your local policing. You swamp and flood and collide, and so much that you so much distract the local government and resources. You draw down so many resources. It leaves very, very little attention and time for the bigger picture to be looked at. So the same thing happened. Everyone's watching the drones for about 2 months over the Northeast. Now there's not a word about them in the TV. It's completely gone. So same thing with those. If you can distract people, you can control the outcome. So it's basic warfare. World War II, the Brits came up with a situation where they could basically, by having pieces of aluminum foil off the wings of aircraft, they could actually destroy the picture that the Germans were getting. And they were flying basically Spitfires and old pieces of shit up and down across the English Channel, basically blinding their radar. Or radar as against terrorism has been softened, and we've got now a generation which has been softened and facilitated and enabled. This generation behind us right now, just coming out of high school, has no idea of 9/11, has no idea of anything, and has no interest in it, right? Unless it's on a game, or unless it's something to do that's entertaining. News is now entertainment. So here's the thing: analog wins. We need to unplug from the electric side of stuff and go back to analog. Go back to, because what's happening is the basic medieval types of tactics are being used on the enemy. There is a caliphate. There is no compatibility with Islam, with any other religion. There's a branch of Islam called Baha'i, possibly HAI. They are founded in the 1800s sometime, and they're a combination of Judaism and Islam and a bit of Christianity in them. It's a KOS. It's a kill on sight if any Muslim sees them. Whether you're temperate, moderate, or otherwise, you cannot be anywhere near them because they expose what Islam was.
Mhm.
But they took the premise of what the goodness of what Islam has, which Islam has some good in it in the books because it is Abrahamic in its religion. But what I'm coming to is that we've been distracted by these immigrants. The first point you think of is immigration. Oh no, I feel sorry for him. Let him in. You don't know what he is. You don't know what he's about. Next thing, he's got 4 kids. Those 4 kids influence the other 4 kids in their school, and before you know it, you've got a whole classroom believing in one guy who's most popular because he looks different from the rest of them. They have used us and our values against ourselves, and this is where we're at. It's totally coordinated. Absolutely.
You are 100% correct. All right, folks, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Don't go away. When we come back, we're going to talk about China is not our friend, and then we will be entering the entertainment section of the show tonight. So stick around, and we'll be back in about 5. Okay, folks, welcome back to the second half of I-12 GIA, Real Talk with Real People, the voice of experience. We're going to just go ahead and jump right into China is not our friend. Now, I'm going to start this off with a couple of things to begin with. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And I have to wonder, I think Nomad brought up something earlier interesting concerning Russia and Iran in the Middle East. And I think seems to me that a lot of folks are more concerned, especially in politics, about Russia than they are about China. Much more concerned. I don't think China is as big of a threat as everybody thinks they are, as far as world domination goes. They don't have the economy. I think specialist, you said something about Vladimir Putin. He's not being such a bad guy. For
No, and I got a
reasons.
whole segment on China too. So
Yeah, okay, we'll get that to here just in a
Yep.
minute. So I don't think it seems like China has caused a lot more hate and discontent within the United States of America than any other country has at this point, either through orchestration or through direct action. And we really don't know. You have Dianne Feinstein, whose chauffeur was a Chinese special agent, and then Fang and whoever that other lady was.
Yeah.
It was whoever she was swallowing Swalwell or whatever. So who knows what was going on with that? You know, they thoroughly infiltrated our government. Which yeah, exactly. Which starts out, which the title of that segment is "China is not our friend." So specialists, go ahead, brother, jump on there in there.
all right, so I gotta disagree with China's not our friend. So I got two categories that I'm gonna put them in. First category is short term. Short-term problems are Russia. Short-term problems are the cartels. And our short-term problems are China. Now, if I was going to prioritize them, I'd put the cartels first. I'd put China second and maybe Russia third. Long-term, our long-term threats, our long-term problems, we talked about it in the first half hour, is Islam. Fogman, you're right. China does not have the economy to take on the United States.
You mean Russia?
China is carrying most, if not all, of our debt. And we're paying them interest on that debt. And if we stop paying them interest, their economy is very fragile right now. But if they miss the U.S. debt interest payment, their economy would collapse. Not only that, the first target on the target list would be their Three Gorges Dam.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
In China, which manifests itself over the Yangtze River. And so those two factors alone, China is not in a position to be dictating or taking on the United States. All they're doing, like parading their flotilla around Australia and the Philippines and all Eurasia, is they're just flexing their muscles. I don't think China's a real threat to anybody else. Mm-hmm. I think the cartels are a threat to us. And Russia needs, we need to keep our eye on Putin, but he's really not I don't think Putin's a bad guy. Just the cartel, like the cartels have those man wraps. They're Russian made, but they were sent by Iran to take out Trump before we get elected. So, I'm not saying that Putin's hands are totally clean because those MRAPs are Russian made, but somehow Iran got a hold of them. But anyway, that's my take on it. Like I said, Sergeant Uber gave me a lot of the help with this tonight. Short term, again, just to recap, cartels are number one. Russia number two, China, I put at the bottom. Long term, though, most volatile, most dangerous, should keep us awake at night, Islam.
Yeah, Nomad, you want to weigh in on the cartel, on China influence and cartels?
I think China has its hands in everything. Even cartels want value for money, so they buy the cheapest knockoffs. Who's the home of the cheapest knockoffs of weapons? China. So specialist is our specialist. The specialist is correct in what he's saying. My take on it, slightly different, would be China's threat is not military at all. It knows it's not capable of it. If it takes us 4.5 years to build a carrier, and it takes the Chinese less than 2 years to build a carrier, that fucking thing's made from Temu cardboard. It's not going to last too bloody long, right? And we know that. China has learned lessons in how to project itself from some of the best empires that ever existed. Everything from the Roman Empire, by having legions marching every time they do it. They learn from the British. And the British and the Chinese did a lot of trade together over the centuries. They always knew that a navy was always a way of showing dominance. U.S. Navy in the world dominates the world. There's no doubt about it. No other navy comes anywhere close to it. Its Air Force is basically capable of defending the Chinese homeland, but nothing else. Its ICBMs are an issue, but that technology is not solely Chinese. It's North Korean, it's Russian again, it's Pakistani, it's everything else. You had to know when we were going after Geronimo and we lost one of the helos and it went down. We had to put a phosphorus into it, and we didn't want it being taken and salvaged and scavenged for parts because they were afraid that the Pakistani intelligence service is called ISIS as well, believe it or not. They were going to sell it to the Chinese. So Chinese technology is primarily stolen from us. They have embedded themselves in every aspect of industry. China's threat to me is economic, but here's the thing: the money that we owe doesn't exist. The national debt doesn't exist. You cannot print trillions of dollars. So here's the thing: if you change the world currency, like Trump is doing, to a cyber version of it, you're automatically eliminating the power and dominance and influence that China has over you. Walmart is 90% Chinese stock and product. So the thing is, the Chinese have learned how to through commerce. They have always been industrious. They don't want to make war. They want to make money. They want to make money, not make war. So I think China is less of a problem. As regards with Russia, Putin is someone that you can manage. You can control him. He's an ego. He's a throwback to the Cold War. So he's going to try and find a happy ground in between those two times. So I would agree with what Specialist said in relation to he's not a bad guy. Not a bad guy being terminology for on the scale of dictators that you've got. But he's a known quantity. So that's it. And then as regards who I think the threat basically is here, it's not primarily any one country. It's how we mismanage ourselves here first. If we can't have more manufacturing here in this country, if we have manufacturing in this country, we eliminate the need to import any more stuff. So energy, as Trump is doing with the oil, drill baby drill, the building of the U.S. Defense Forces up to a proper heightened level, and basically being self-sufficient will take away the dominance that China has. China is just money. Russia is the ogre in the fairy tale in Europe. He gets up, he rumbles and growls, but he goes back to his cave eventually. There's nothing else in the world can touch us, and that's my opinion on that.
Professor?
I do think China is a threat. I'm sitting in a state right now where there are 300 plus rogue CCP marijuana grows throughout towns and the woods, and they are so open and blatant about it. They show up to state meetings and ask, "Hey, how do I become legal?" Why? Because it's very cheap for them to grow here, and they sell it for 4 times the amount back in China.
Mhm.
So they're here. They're blatant about it. Also, China has bought up a lot of land around military bases, and they control a lot of cell towers. A lot of their equipment is in cell towers. I think that if look, we're as civilians here in a country, and I'm not saying this about our military, but if there was an attack of some sort, right, civilians here would lose their mind, right, versus our men and women in the armed services would know what to do. They'd be able to go, it would grind us to a halt. I mean, I remember on 9/11, there were people racing around here, and we were a couple hundred miles north of the incident, and anybody that had a blue light was on. Parents were running to schools and pulling their kids out. It was a mess. So I do believe that China has a significant amount of people here that the Biden administration has welcomed over the border. I believe they have weapons. I believe that if they have to do some damage, they will. And I believe that there's enough incompetent people in our government, right, that they would make some headway until the real heroes could stop them. So I don't put anything past China. I do agree that that their equipment is not even close to what ours is. But I do think they're a significant threat, and it's something to watch for sure.
Yeah, I think that threat's a lot more subtle. I'm going to have to disagree with the specialist up to a point, in that the influence in the cartel is a lot greater than we think, and that's what they want us to think. Fentanyl, for example, didn't exist 20 years ago. Fentanyl came out of China. They're the ones that provide all the precursor chemicals to make the shit. They set up the distribution networks. They sent chemists to Mexico to build it, to figure out how to make this shit. And then they use the cartel smuggling routes to get it into the United States. And right now our country is flooded with enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in this nation several times over if somebody dumps it in the water supply, for example. It's a serious, serious threat. And they have the Belt and Road Plan. They have a 1,000-year plan. They're looking at 1,000 years in the future. It's not short term, but that's where their influence is. And they're masters at it. They've been dynasties throughout history have proven this to be true. And we need to pay attention to them just for the subtlety, if nothing else. But you're right. They're not a military threat. At least, as you said, there's no nation in the world that can take us on right now. It's just not going to happen.
I don't think they have the economy to even consider firing a shot.
Well, no, and that's not it. They're like, as I said, they're a lot more subtle with all of this. So that's kind of where we're going with that.
Yep.
Okay, well, I guess we will do. You guys want to go ahead and do the Twitter lightning round here? And Nomad, you weren't here for this. As I said, what I do is I just scroll through Twitter, and I pick a topic that's of interest, and we each get like a one-word comment about that topic, or one or two. Or, you'll see how it works as we go along. It turned out it just came to me when I was in the shower one day, and it actually kind of, as we worked along, it actually worked okay. And it's actually a lot more fun than you think it is. All right. According to Dutchy Patrick, AOC is right. Elon Musk is not a scientist. He is not an engineer. He is a billionaire con man, according to AOC specialist.
AOC needs to bread her clam with crumbs and start walking away.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Professor.
AOC. Wow. Specialist, you threw me off on that one. AOC, national treasure.
No, bad.
Political dysentery.
Perfect. All right, moving right along.
Well done, specialist.
Okay. Oh, that doesn't matter. That's not good. All right.
I don't know what happened on that one.
Okay, from Brian Allen. You got it. You need to get laid. That's what happened on that one. You've got that shit on the brain here. You've been that way for a while.
It hasn't happened in so many years. I don't even know what it looks like.
Well, yeah. Okay, Brian Allen. Breaking. China has just canceled all U.S. beef contracts, buying from Canada and Brazil instead. Trump's trade war tantrum just cost American farmers billions. China is officially cutting off all U.S. beef and shifting the business to Canada and Brazil. Specialist.
The guy that said it should get a life because he's so wrong. In about 4 months, this economy is going to be booming. You're going to be begging. You're going to be begging for a size 4X pair of pants just to carry a wallet.
Professor.
Canada beef. Yeah, that's ours anyways. Thank you.
Nomad.
Irrelevant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, actually,
right.
it is. It actually
Well
is
said.
because the United States of America buys 3%. I mean, I'm sorry, China buys 3% of their beef from the United States of America. The rest of it's already being purchased from Brazil. All right. Let's see. So irrelevant is an excellent statement there. What the fuck is that? Let's see here. Well, that dickhead is seriously irrelevant to the point we're not even going to discuss him. Okay, Bernie Sanders. No, Mr. President, you cannot illegally arrest and detain legal U.S. residents because of their political views or opinions. Specialist.
Coming from the guy that lives about 45 minutes from where I am and who honeymooned in Russia, I'm stealing a line from Nomad. Irrelevant.
Nomad.
Flatulence.
Professor.
He's always going to one-up me.
Old.
All right, I'm going to one up both of you. Mittens.
Love it.
All right, let's do one more here. Let's see. Okay, terrible. Track runner is denying hitting the other runner on purpose. I would never do that on purpose. That's not in my character. Do you believe her? You guys see that one? You guys familiar with that? Okay, specialist.
Guilty.
Nomad. Exactly. Professor?
Intentional.
And my thought is she whacked the wig right off that poor girl. Okay. Now, all right. So that's it for the lightning round of X. There's much more, but we got other shit to get to. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and finish up here. We're coming up on our hour now. A couple of weeks ago, we started doing some training videos and stuff, and adding that at the end of the show. Just little short videos, 10 seconds to a minute, of topics of interest as we go along. So I went ahead and did tonight. We're going to go seated gun training. Okay. Now remember, folks, in your comments and your criticisms, I'm a very delicate butterfly and I bruise easily. So please be gentle. Okay, folks, today's short training video is concerning drawing and firing from a seated position. The purpose of the exercise is to give you some techniques that will allow you not to flag a body part when you're drawing and firing. So the first one will be from a side carry. When you're ready to engage, move your lower body in one direction or the other. Then you can draw your weapon and engage. And in doing so, you're not flagging your lower body. The other one is an appendix carry. For this technique, instead of moving your lower body to one side or the other, you just simply spread your legs, draw your weapon, not flagging anything, and engage. Okay, folks, that's it for today's 10-second training video. So there you have it.
Hey, great job in the video. Could you just, for our viewing audience, just explain what flagging is?
Yeah, it's
A lot of people don't know what it is.
also muzzling a body part, muzzling anything, the person in front of you, the person next to you, anything that you don't want to destroy, as we talked before, the 4 rules of firearm safety. Keep finger off trigger until you're ready to shoot. Shoot every weapon as if it's loaded. Positively identify your target. And what's the last one?
Always knows beyond your target.
There you go. So anyway, that's what that is. That's what flagging is. I didn't really go into a whole lot of detail because there's little short videos like that. We don't obviously.
That was a great video.
Thanks. Obviously, for the purposes of YouTube, because I got to say this too, we did not use a real gun. So as a result, we didn't clear it. We didn't check to see if it's safe. It is a plastic training tool.
Yep.
So YouTube, calm the fuck down. And on that happy note, folks, we got some good topics tonight. Everybody did pretty well. So let's go ahead and say our goodbyes, and we'll wander off into the sunset. Professor, start us off.
Proper planning prevents poor performance. Make sure you get some training. Take take 30 to 60 seconds to observe your surroundings, and that'll put you at least 100% better position than the folks immediately around you. Take a few minutes and pray for our brothers and sisters in Syria. May God bless them, and may God get them through this, and God bless Israel.
Specialist.
I'm going to second what Professor Von Helsing said. Pray for the Christians in Syria. I'm Jewish. Nomad's Jewish. We got a holiday coming up tomorrow on Friday, Purim. We got Shabbos on Friday.
Yeah.
God bless America. God bless Israel. Know your surroundings. Be aware of your surroundings. Always have your head on a swivel. Be prepared to act. Nobody's coming to save you except yourself.
Nomad.
Don't let your guard down. Just because we won the election doesn't mean that the threat hasn't gone. It's about to resurface and manifest itself in different ways. Be prepared for the onslaught in ways we have not imagined.
Amen.
You are 100% correct, folks. As everybody said here, we are nowhere near done yet. This is just beginning. As we spoke earlier, there's something biblical coming on the horizon. So keep your shit together. Give the ones that you love a big hug. And I want to thank our sponsors, I-12GIA, Peace of Mind Training. And on that happy note, we'll go ahead and close it out for the evening. Thanks for joining us. If you liked what we did tonight, if we educated and entertained, which we tend to try to do anyway, please go to YouTube where we stream live every week. Hit the like and subscribe button, and that kind of helps keep us on the air. So thanks, folks, and we will see you next